Michael, well, thank you for sitting down. I've heard before, and you would speak to this as well, as regarding the importance of training leaders within your church. That might even be pastoral leaders within your church or just laymen within your church. And people understand that vitality in training the next generation. But I wanted to ask you a specific question that leads into that in regards to modeling. I want you to speak to the importance of modeling the joy of getting the privilege of serving the Lord to the next generation. I think sometimes we talk about how we're in the trenches and it's difficult. I had a pastor told me recently that it's lonely at the top and pastors don't have friends. And I want your perspective on how you model to the men around you the absolute joy it is to serve the Lord, even amidst the difficulties of it.
It's a great question. I think part of it is, I think as a pastor, I understand what was being conveyed by your friend. I don't know that I see myself as at the top.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem as a pastor is we've got to remind ourselves that we're with the people. And I think sometimes the joy comes best when we are closest to our people. And I think the struggle often comes quickest when we remove ourselves from the people. There's obviously challenges of relationships in the church. All pastors understand that, but we need to be with the people. 1 Peter 5, shepherd the flock of God among you. Yeah. We need to be with them. We need to interact with them. We're not removed from them. We're not separate from them. And I really do think that a lot of the joy comes when you see the calling God has given you taking root in the heart and lives of the people that you're serving. And so you mentioned, even training the next generation. I think as leaders, what we've got to do is not try to see our calling as a chance to flex our gifts as much as it is to use our gifts to train and equip other people. Mm-hmm. And if you're seeing people grow in the Lord, if you're seeing them use their gifts to strengthen the body of Christ, there's always joy in that. And so while it may be that the world is difficult and schedules are demanding, and it may be that there are challenges in your church that are really painful, those things are true, yet every single week, if you're teaching people the Bible and replicating leaders and watching them use their gifts, there's always joy. There's always something to just be amazed. In my own life, when the Lord called me, He called such an unlikely person to be a pastor. And I've never forgotten how much grace it took of the Lord to use me. And I find immense joy, truly, every day that I get to do what the Lord's called me to do. Mm. And so one of the things, like at our congregation at First Baptist Mustang, that we do is we try to very purposefully use theological education to train people in our church. And as we do that, I get to watch people of all walks of life grow in their knowledge of the Word, using their gifts.
Which brings you joy.
Which brings joy, absolutely. Yeah. And so to me...
It's not a checked box.
It's not a checked box. Yeah. And also it's a reminder that these are people that are ready to use their gifts. They're ready to be taught, equipped, and trained. And my responsibility is to train them and then to release them. As a dad, there are 3 words that gripped me as a father with my philosophy of raising my 2 sons. Teach, train, release. I wanted to teach my children the truth. I wanted to train and shepherd them as they started to do hands-on, and then release them to go be the men God's created them to be. I wanted to teach them, train them, and release them. Not release them from my care, not release them from my prayers, but release them in the sense of they're free to go be who God's made them to be. And as a dad, I found great joy in that. As a pastor, I find great joy in the exact same thing. I want to teach my people the truth. And then those who want to go deeper, I want to train them. I want to actually spend time showing them and helping them do the work of ministry. And then I want to release them to go be who God's made them to be, strengthen the body of Christ. And there are lots of weeks where I'm tired, lots of weeks where there are things that are a burden to my soul. But I can honestly say there is never a week, ever, that I don't feel joy. And part of it is because every single week of my ministry, I'm with these people. I'm training them. Yeah. And so Sunday afternoons, I preach 2 times, go home and eat lunch, go to the gym to work out, come back and clean up, and I'm back at the church at 3:30 teaching an hour and 15 minutes of theology. And then I've got about 5 minutes to run to the sanctuary and be in the evening service. And so nearly every single Sunday throughout the year, I'm getting to sit with these men in our church who they're watching videos online, they're reading textbooks, they're doing assignments, they're studying for final exams, they're coming to hear me lecture for an hour a week. But what could be more joyful than seeing high school students, coaches, business owners? I've got some retired pastors of our church that are going through the program, and I get to watch these men of all walk of life, all ages, who are still saying, I want to learn more, I want to be equipped, I want to be useful for the kingdom. Every single Sunday, I'm teaching this class, looking at these people saying, how much fun is this? Yeah. How incredible that I get to be a part of this. And I feel the same demands every preacher feels and the same stress every preacher feels, but the joy comes from seeing that you're investing your time in other people and you watch them flourish. So we're teaching them, we're training them, and then we're releasing them. And I think it's in the releasing for ministry and the releasing to do what God's called them to be that there's great, immense joy. I don't want people just to come watch me use my gifts. Yeah. I want to train and teach them to use their gifts and be released in the body of Christ.
Which is inevitably going to change their perspective on why you even minister to them.
Absolutely.
Obviously, there's a burden to it.
For sure.
Paul says he's concerned for the churches, and maybe there's a concern for their souls, but it's also, he said, brings immense joy, which
Absolutely.
For them is going to go, my pastor loves me,
That's
cares
right.
for me, is my friend.
And they know I'm spending time with them, and they know I don't have to do that. I mean, the church doesn't demand it, but they know that I want to do that. And for our ladies, we try our best to train our ladies as well. I do a thing called Ladies Night of Theology. About every 2 months, we do Ladies Night of Theology. At my church, I teach from 6:30 to 8:30, 2 hours of me just teaching them at night. Just me teaching systematic theology. We don't do small groups. We don't do discussion. We don't do talk back. Nothing wrong with those things at all. That's just not what this is. So
the training session.
They come for 2 hours for me to teach them the theology from the Word. And the ladies just keep coming. We did it 2 weeks ago and had 280 ladies that were there.
That's awesome.
From ages 9 to 97.
Come on.
That were there. Well, what could be more joyful than looking out of the congregation and literally seeing children who are not even 10 years old yet. On the very front row is a lady who is 97, and they're there all in between. I was teaching on the holiness of God, and I'm getting to invest in these ladies these things that we believe as the body of Christ. And so if you're one of the men in my men's institute, and you're one of the ladies that come into our Ladies Night of Theology, these men and women get to go home and have conversations about what they're learning, but also about what they can do with that. And they feel hopefully trained and taught how to do that, and then released to go and raise children who love the Lord and serve in ministries that are Christ-focused. Yeah. And as a pastor, when I watch our church members doing what God's called them to do, I'm able to have incredible joy in that. So I understand when preachers talk about how hard the ministry is or how lonely it can be, but I must say, if the pastor is shepherding the flock of God among them, there should be a joy that is just as present as the pain and the stress. It doesn't take away the stress and the pain, but it should be equally present because you are with God's people, training them and releasing them unto ministry.
Michael, that's super helpful. I love your perspective and thankful for the time to sit with you. So
you
thank
bet.
you.